Hello, everyone. Instead of doing a presentation on the current topic of the week, I decided to do one on just the small group exercise that you'll be getting into after this week because I've had some questions and I've prepared some documents and some tools for you that I sent out earlier today. And I just wanted to spend a little time. Sometimes people seem to do better if I explain it versus writing it because think I can write a little too much sometimes. So sorry about that. I Let's go through it. So I want to go over the purpose. First of all, it's just one of it's the practice of being in a group setting, particularly before we go into the immersion week, which is intense in itself. And you might as well get used to the technology and working together. You also, because this activity is actually linked to an accreditation expectation from CACREP, the Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Education Programs that guides our coursework, they want you to know that you can be a functioning, contributing member of a personal growth group focused on counselor self-care. It's a requirement, 10 hours. So what we've done, rather than have you have to go out and find or even pay for a group process, we put it into this course. So 3 hours will be related in here, and then you'll get 7 more hours when we go into the immersion week and do the future authoring work. They're both they're related. They'll fit. You'll see. So there is a purpose, not just an activity I made up. Now, the normal, if you were doing a process group, you would find yourselves forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning and through this whole process. And you'll find that you'll do it within a 3 session. Maybe you skip over or really don't have a storming. Maybe you come up with an idea and everybody's fine with it. You go forward. But you're a loose group right now. Even with only 3 people, you're still kind of loose. And it's small, I know, but it'll work. And I guess you could call it couples counseling, it feels like, but it's a group. And then you'll come together and work together cohesively at some point, if not all the way through. And then at the end, you're going to adjourn. You're going to be saying goodbye and acknowledging what contribution each of you made to the effort and what you learned about yourself in the process. Now, I am going to say this very carefully. You do not have to share things that you're uncomfortable sharing. It would be the same I would tell you as a therapist. Just because you have something in your history that you connect with as a therapist to your client, you don't have to share that. You may want to if it moves everything forward, if you feel comfortable enough, but this is not the place to stretch yourself and share things that might be very uncomfortable for you to share. Okay? Session 1, 3 sessions. The first session is the intro. Second session, you're going to really work on an activity, and the third, termination. I would say as a group, if I were you, when I release the information about who's in what group, you're going to be in a small group. Over on the left-hand side, there'll be a designation, small groups. You can go in there and start a discussion without being in Zoom, or if you could start the discussion and then do the full activity in there. That's where those of you who want to have the asynchronous experience over the weeks will do it in that small group. You can do it if you're doing real time, just to have a quick conversation about what it is you really think you'd like to do. I will assign the leader. I will assign the leader for each of the sessions, and that way you don't have to worry about arguing through who's going to do what when or spending that time. And so you can that way the person who's in charge of the first session can get started on going through the toolkit, figuring out what they want to do from an icebreaker standpoint. Remember you can go back into your module where we talked about that, and find some ideas. Do that, start the activity, whatever it may be. Homework's always a good idea. There's a couple of things that I'm going to show on the tools that you might want to use. You might want to have people start to identify an objective to use the SMART approach with, or you may want to have somebody do everybody do the VIA character survey if they haven't done it, or if they have done it, they could do it again and learn from that. Session 2 really is focused more on the activity. I always tell people, always think of every session that you start by reviewing what went on before, see if there's anything to clear up, and then previewing what you're going to do, doing it, then reviewing what you've done, and previewing where you may go. Like there's homework. So you're processing the activity. Session 3, you get to say goodbye to each other. And again, review, preview. What is it that's going to keep you working on this self-care activity, or whatever it is that you've designed or found out about yourself that you want to do? If you've used the VIA character survey, what's the strength that you want to work on during this period of time, and where are some ideas that you can get? I will give you a hint that the folks at the VIA character survey have done a great job of giving some resources that you can look around and find, okay? Then how do you acknowledge each other and move on? Okay, that's it. It's very simple. And everybody's like, yeah, she's saying that because she doesn't have to do it. Yeah, you're right. Positive psychology is our theoretical approach in this. It's this week's learning. There's lots of tools. There's lots of ways to go with this. Again, don't get overwhelmed. Just figure out what might work best. If you thought about your own self-care as a counselor, how do you keep from getting burned out? How do you continue to be able to stay focused on your students? Not students, on your clients in the process. Here's some of the tools. There's a SMART worksheet for planning that I sent you. The VIA survey strengths, I think I gave that. It's in, I think I gave you a link to that. These are some of the activities that I listed under the, like, some ideas that came out of one article that I found. Writing down 3 good things that have happened, brief essay on what they want to be remembered for most, composing a letter of gratitude, savoring daily events in our lives. What does it feel like when you slow down and just experience something instead of rushing through everything? And how do you build more of that in your life? Whatever it may be that you have decided to come up with. But these are just some ideas related to positive psychology that would be useful to consider. But there's others, a whole bunch of others. Gave you a handbook, a toolkit link as well. Part of the activity is for you to do it. Now, I'm going to set up the Zoom for those of you in Zoom. I'm going to go into the small group and track the discussions a little bit, just so I have my own assessment of what's going on. But you're going to journal and answer some questions. There's 2 things you're going to do. One is you're going to do it as a member of the group and talk about who was your group facilitator, what was the session number, what did you learn, what was the best aspect of the session, what did you gain from it, what would you have liked more of, and what do you remember? Then when you do it, you're going to talk about yourself. And I facilitated session number 1. The best aspect of this was, in the future, I'll remember 2. Think about the lessons learned that you had. Or maybe it might just be to relax and be authentic and trust yourself to be able to do it. Okay? So remember, groups of 3, each person facilitates a session. We're going to meet over February 11th through the 25th, 3 sessions. Asynchronous or synchronous. Some of you are going to be online in the discussion forum. Some of you are going to be video conferencing by Zoom. When I set up the groups, you'll get a link through Outlook for that. You should be able to, or I'm going to send out emails to everybody with the link in it. That I'm going to set it up so it's a recurring event, so you can, I think I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. I set up a recurring so you have that link for each time. Sessions focused on self care goals as a counselor using positive psychology exercises, and you're going to do a self assessment, which is the most, you need to do 3 journal entries to complete the whole process. Okay, now I'm going to set up a couple. I'm going to look at the doodle poll to see when people were the most available and try to set up a day and an evening hour that we can have conversation about the, the activity. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say goodbye and stop right now and end all of this. Thank you.